Okay, so here we have some sentences in bold. Where I used to live, that lived on the first floor, who works as a travel agent, that made me furious, which most people follow, and whose children leave bicycles in front of my door. So these are relative clauses. Okay, today we're going to learn how to use them and what are them. But first, we are going to learn what is a clause. Do you remember that we talk about clauses? What is a clause? Any ideas? What is a clause? What is a clause? No? Okay,
Santa Claus.
no. A clause is a group of words containing a subject and a verb, which form a sentence or part of a sentence. So it's similar to a sentence. A clause is similar to a sentence because a sentence is also a group of words with a subject and a verb, okay? But the difference between the clause and a sentence is that in one sentence, we can have one clause, two clauses, three clauses, or a lot of clauses, and one clause is only one, okay? So let's see this example that we have here. Here we have a sentence, okay? So I want you to tell me how many clauses do you think we have here? Remember that a clause is a group of words containing a subject and a verb. I can't cook very well, but I make quite good pancakes. How many clauses do you think we have in this example?
Two
Two
clauses.
clauses. Yes, very good. So the first is,
I cook. I can cook.
yes, I can cook very well. Is the first clause. Okay, and the second clause, of course, is I make
I make
quite
quite good
pancakes.
pancakes.
Very good. And how do we know? How do we know that these are close? Because it's a group of words, and here we have a subject, and in the other one we have a subject too. And we have a verb, can't cook, and here we have a verb. So we have two clauses in only one sentence. Okay, as you can see, we can use more clauses in only one sentence. Okay, so remember that a clause is a group of words with a subject and a verb. Okay, so now we are going to check what is a relative clause. Okay, and a relative clause is the same. It's a group of words with a subject and a verb, but the difference is that we start this clause with a relative pronoun. Do you remember or do you have any ideas of what is a relative pronoun? A relative pronoun? No? Nobody? Okay. So here we have some examples of relative pronouns. Who, which, that, whose, where, when, whom, and why. All of these are relative pronouns. Of course, we have some others that we don't have here in the examples, but these are some examples of relative pronouns. And we are going to use some of them for this lesson, okay? And here we have a relative clause. The woman who called to you is my dentist. As you can see, here we have a relative clause because it starts with a relative pronoun. Okay? Let's see now some relative pronouns that we are going to use.
Teacher, one question.
Yes?
What's the difference entre who and whom with M?
We are going to see this right now, but who is when we are talking about the subject, and whom when is the object of the sentence. Okay? Who, subject, and whom, object. Luego vamos a verlo, okay?
Thank you, teacher.
So, we are going to start with who, okay? When do you think we can use who? When we are talking about what? In which situations we can use who? When we talk about what?
People.
People, right? Very good. When we talk about people. And what about that? When do we use that? When we talk about
Also people or things.
people or things, right? Very good. And which?
Only things.
Only things. Very good. So, you know, we use people, we use who when we are referring back to people or one person or people. For example, the woman who lives next door is a doctor. Okay, so who we are talking about? The woman, a person, right? And we can also say who for plural, plural people, right? People who study languages are smart. I want you to notice something important, that is the verb. When we are talking about only one person, of course, the verb is for the third person because we are talking about he or about she. Okay, so the verb is for the third person. But if we talk in plural, of course, the verb is not for the third person because we are talking about they, right? So be careful with that. Then we use that to talk about people and things. For example, that. John bought a TV that is bigger than mine. So, este that está refiriéndose a la televisión, la cual es más grande que la mía. Okay? And we can also use that to talk about people, right? The woman that lives next door is a doctor. Exactly the same. Podremos reemplazar who por that. No hay ningún problema. Then we have which. Which is used just for objects. Okay, objects, of course, places, but not for people. Okay, we can use this for singular or plural. For example, John bought a TV which is bigger than mine. Como pueden ver, es la misma oración y podemos reemplazarlo por which porque estamos hablando de un objeto. Ok, la cual es más grande que la mía. Michael's sneakers, which are really expensive, are lost. Ok, entonces aquí estamos refiriéndonos a los sneakers, which are really expensive, los que son muy caros. Okay, so we can use that to replace who, and we can use that to replace which, because that is used for people and is also used for things, for objects or places. Okay? Any questions until here? Okay, let's go to the next relative pronouns. We are going to use whose for possession when we indicate that something belongs to someone or someone belongs to someone or relationships too. Cuando indicamos posesión o relación entre dos personas, okay? After whose, we need a noun, okay? For example, whose phone is this? ¿De quién es ese teléfono? This is the girl whose phone was lost. Esta es la chica de la cual el teléfono estaba perdido. O sea, el teléfono de la chica estaba perdido. ¿Okay? Entonces, cuando decimos whose, indicamos que el siguiente objeto le pertenece a la persona de la que estamos hablando. ¿Okay? Entonces, generalmente para indicar posesión o a veces para indicar relaciones entre personas. Por ejemplo, whose daughter, whose son, whose mother. Okay? And then we are going to use also where to talk about places. Okay? She came back to the place where she left her phone. Donde ella dejó su teléfono. Okay, so we are going to use all these relative pronouns in this lesson. Any questions about this? Lo que les estaba diciendo acerca de whose para indicar relaciones entre personas, por ejemplo, podríamos decir, that's the man whose daughter is the best student in the class. That's the man whose daughter, ¿ok? ¿De quién es la hija? Del hombre, ¿ok? Whose daughter is the best student in the class, ¿ok? También podemos utilizarlo con relaciones de personas. Okay, so then we are going to talk about relative clauses. Okay, so we said that relative clauses is a group of words with a subject and a verb, and this group of words start with a relative pronoun, right? We can use relative clauses to join two English sentences or give more information about something. Para unir dos oraciones o para dar más información sobre algo. Por ejemplo, I bought a new car. It's very fast. Aquí tengo dos oraciones y las voy a unir en solo una. ¿Cómo podría hacerlo? ¿Cuál es el relative pronoun que yo podría utilizar para unir estas dos oraciones? What do you think?
I bought a new car that is very fast.
Very good. That is very fast, or which is very fast, because we can use which or that for objects, right? And here we have that. And here we have another sentence. She has a son. He is a doctor. ¿Qué podría decir acá? ¿Cómo puedo unir estas dos oraciones?
He has a son, is a doctor.
¿Y qué relative pronoun podría utilizar usted?
Who?
Who is a doctor, right? She has a son who is a doctor. Entonces, en estas oraciones estamos uniendo dos ideas, dos oraciones en una sola, y también estamos dando más información sobre algo. Por ejemplo, estoy dando más información sobre el nuevo auto y más información sobre el hijo. ¿Ok? Ella tiene un hijo y estoy añadiendo, ese hijo es doctor. Y estamos hablando del auto nuevo y estoy añadiendo que el auto es rápido. ¿Ok? Entonces, para esas dos funciones podríamos ocupar estas relative clauses. ¿Ok? Then, here we have some relative pronouns, and I want you to help me to complete the following sentences with these relative pronouns in the following relative clauses. Okay? So pay attention. I am looking for a secretary. Can use a computer well. What can I say here? I am looking for a secretary. Who, right? Because we are referring to, ¿a qué nos estamos refiriendo?
Secretary.
Secretary, right? But we can also use what? We can also use that. We can also use that because we can use who or that for people. So a secretary is a person, right? Very good. So I'm looking for a secretary who or that can use a computer well. Number 2, my birthday was my 40th, turned out to be a wonderful day. ¿Cuál podríamos utilizar? Which of them?
Which?
Which, right? We can use which because we are referring to, ¿a qué nos estamos refiriendo?
Birthday.
Al birthday. Estamos hablando del cumpleaños. ¿Ok? So, cuando no estamos hablando de personas, recuerden que podemos utilizar which o también podemos utilizar, ¿cuál es la otra opción que tenemos?
That.
That, right? So we are referring to the birthday. So my birthday, which was my 40th, turned out to be a wonderful day. Okay. The next one. The Javan tiger habitat was recently destroyed by humans. Is now extinct.
Was.
Whose, right? Because we are talking about what? ¿De qué estamos hablando?
Tiger habitat.
The tiger habitat, right? Very good. Estamos hablando del hábitat del tigre. Entonces, por eso utilizamos este que es para posesión. El hábitat del tigre, ¿cierto? Very good. Whose. Y como pueden ver, después de whose siempre debe venir un sustantivo, un noun. En cambio, los otros, si se dan cuenta, podemos tener un verbo o otra cosa, ¿ok? Number 4, I sometimes go and study in my local park. I can get some fresh air. What can I say here?
Where?
Where, because I am talking about what?
At the local park.
Very good. I am referring to the local park. Very good. And the last one, the doctor I was hoping to see wasn't on duty.
Who?
Who, because we are talking about the doctor, or that,
That.
because we can use any of them, right? Very good. So who, that, which, whose, and where are the personal pronouns, the relative pronouns that we are going to use, okay? Very good. Y como pueden ver aquí en estas relative clauses, who, that, which, that, whose, todos esos generalmente son el sujeto de nuestra oración. ¿Ok? Luego vamos a hablar un poquito más de eso. So, in relative clauses, we have two types of relative clauses. We have defining relative clauses and non-defining relative clauses. We are going to check the differences between these. Pay attention. Defining relative clauses are the ones that we use to specify which person, thing, or place we are talking about. Okay? And non-defining relative clause are the ones that we use to give extra information about the person, the thing or place we mentioned in the main clause. Let's check some examples. People who hate chocolate are uncommon. Ok, entonces aquí yo estoy especificando que la gente que odia el chocolate, no otras personas, sino las que odian el chocolate. Entonces estoy especificando de qué persona estoy hablando o de qué personas estoy hablando. Ok, are uncommon. Por ejemplo, también puedo decir people who do exercise are healthy. Ok, entonces especifico qué tipo de persona es de la que estoy hablando. And in this one, we give extra information. Información que no necesitamos es solamente extra, ok? The dish I ordered, which was delicious, was a traditional plate from Russia. Si se dan cuenta, esta información es extra. No la necesito para que mi oración tenga sentido. The dish I ordered was a traditional plate from Russia is a perfect, complete sentence. ¿Ok? Entonces, esta información es extra. ¿Ok? Quiero que noten una diferencia muy grande entre estas dos. Lean las dos oraciones y díganme cuál sería la diferencia. What is the difference between defining and non-defining? Can you find the difference? Can you notice something different between these two sentences? Anybody?
Las comas, teacher.
Yes, the commas, right? So we use commas when we are giving extra information. When we have non-defining relative clauses, we need to use commas. But in defining relative clauses, we don't use commas. ¿Ok? Esta non-defining relative clause puede ir en el medio de la oración o también puede ir al final. ¿Ok? Podríamos decir, voy a escribir la oración. También podríamos decir, the dish I ordered was a traditional plate from Russia, comma, which was delicious. ¿Ok? Como pueden ver, esta relative clause, que es non-defining, también puede ir al final, pero recuerden siempre utilizar la coma. ¿Ok? Any questions until here, defining and non-defining relative clause? Algo que quiero que noten. Yes?
Teacher, and which could be a defining clause or only is not non-defining? ¿Hay alguna forma de que sea del otro lado, defining? ¿O siempre va a ser no defining, teacher?
¿Hay alguna forma de que esta
Ajá. De que which pueda ser, digamos, del otro lado, que sí sea...
claro, que utilicemos which en defining?
Ajá.
Sí, sí, podemos utilizar cualquier relative pronoun in defining o non-defining. No, este solo es un ejemplo. Cualquier relative pronoun pueden ir en cualquiera de los dos grupos de oraciones. ¿Ok? Algo que quiero que noten también en las defining relative clauses, si sacamos nuestra relative clause, si la eliminamos, vamos a eliminarla, la oración no está completa, no tiene un significado completo. ¿Ok? People are uncommon no tiene un significado completo. Entonces, esa es otra de las diferencias. ¿Ok? Entonces, la relative clause le da el significado a la oración. ¿Ok? En este caso, en las defining relative clauses. En cambio, si sacamos esto, nuestra oración queda perfectamente completa, el sentido de la oración se puede entender y no es solo extra information. ¿Ok? Let's go to the next part. Here we have some sentences. I want you to tell me if they are defining or they are non-defining relative clauses. Okay, number one. An elephant is an animal that lives in hot countries. What do you think about this one? Is defining or non-defining?
Defining.
Defining,
How
teacher.
do you know that?
Don't have extra information
Mm-hmm.
and don't have the commas.
Very good. Yeah, so this is the relative clause that lives in hot countries. Okay, entonces si solo ponemos an elephant is an animal, no está completo el sentido de la oración y también no hay comas, ¿cierto? What about this one? Here we have who's retired now. Jack, who's retired now, spent a lot of time with his grandchildren. What do you think about this one? Defining or non-defining?
Not defining.
Non-defining, right? It's extra information, porque perfectamente podríamos decir, Jack spends a lot of time with his grandchildren, y tiene perfecto sentido. Y también porque tenemos las comas, ¿cierto? What about this one? They live in a house whose roof is full of holes. This is
Defining.
defining. ¿Cuál sería la relative clause en la siguiente oración? We want to see the new Tom Carter film, which was released on Friday. ¿Cuál es la relative clause? Which was released on Friday. Esta es la relative clause, right? What about the next one? My sister, whose dog I'm looking after, is visiting a friend in Australia. What is the relative clause here? ¿Cuál sería la relative clause?
Dog I'm looking after.
Whose dog I'm looking after. Children who hate chocolate are uncommon. ¿Cuál sería la relative clause?
Who hate
Who hate chocolate.
Who hate chocolate. Yes. Let's go to a country where the sun always shines. What is the relative clause?
Where the sun always shines.
Very good. So we said that the first one was defining, right? The second one, non-defining. And we have the commas too, right? Number 3, we said that this was defining. Number 4, defining or non-defining?
Non-defining.
Non-defining, right? And here we have the commas too. Number 5,
Non-defining.
non-defining. And here we have the commas too. Number 6,
defining.
defining. And the last one,
Defining.
defining. Very good. So remember, when we have non-defining relative clauses, we need to use commas and it's extra information, okay? And we have sometimes, we have also the relative pronouns, who, which, whose, that, and these can be the subject of the clause or they can be the object of the clause. Okay, pueden ser el sujeto o el objeto. Do you remember what is the difference between subject and object? We learned this in the first class, I guess, in the first lesson. What is a subject in a sentence? What is a subject?
The person.
Anybody else?
The people or the things that we are talking.
That we are talking about, yes. Anybody else? Anything else that you can add? What is a subject?
The
Who
person
do
or
the
thing.
action?
Yes, the person or thing who performs or that performs the action in the sentence. ¿Ok? La persona que hace o realiza la acción en la oración. And what about the object? What is the object of the sentence?
The person or thing who that receive the action.
Very good. Person or things that receives the action in the sentence. So we are going to use exactly the same concepts here for the clauses, ¿ok? Vamos a utilizar los mismos conceptos aquí en este tipo de oraciones, ¿ok? So, yes, the subject is the person or the thing who performs the action in a sentence, and the object, the person or thing who receives the action. Very good. When the relative pronoun is the subject of the clause, this is required. So we can't omit the relative pronoun. And when the relative pronoun is the object of the clause, is optional. So we can omit the relative pronoun. ¿Ok? Si nuestro relative pronoun es el sujeto de nuestra clause, no podemos omitirlo. Sí o sí debemos escribirlo o decirlo. Pero cuando nuestro relative pronoun, cuando nuestro pronombre relativo es el objeto de nuestra clause, es opcional. Podemos omitirlo o no. ¿Ok? Vamos a ver algunos ejemplos. El mismo ejemplo que teníamos anteriormente. People who hate chocolate are uncommon. Como pueden ver aquí, who es el sujeto de nuestra oración. ¿Por qué? Porque estamos hablando que estas personas son las que odian el chocolate. ¿Ok? Entonces es el sujeto de la oración, no podemos eliminarlo de nuestra oración. Debemos sí o sí decirlo o ponerlo en nuestra oración. ¿Ok? Aquí tenemos otra oración. The dish that I ordered was delicious. Ok. Quiero que me digan quién es el sujeto de esta oración. ¿Quién realiza la acción? ¿Cómo? ¿Quién realiza la acción aquí?
Me,
Me, right? I order. ¿Ok? Yo ordeno la comida o yo ordené la comida. Entonces, este es el sujeto y este es el verbo. ¿Y qué ordené yo?
A dish.
The dish, right? Entonces, the dish es el objeto de nuestra oración. Por favor, sus micrófonos. Porque es quien es el objeto que recibe nuestra acción. ¿Ok? Entonces, podríamos omitir that. ¿Por qué? Porque en esta oración, that es el objeto de nuestra clause. The dish I ordered was delicious. Y ambas oraciones están bien, están correctas. Entonces, recuerden eso. Cuando la persona que realiza la acción está después o no se relaciona con este relative pronoun, se da a entender que es el objeto, entonces podemos eliminar este relative pronoun. Algo que nos ayuda mucho a darnos cuenta si es el objeto o el sujeto es la palabra que sigue después del relative pronoun. Por ejemplo, ¿qué tipo de palabra tenemos después de este relative pronoun? ¿Qué tipo de palabra tenemos? What is
verb,
a verb? Right? Entonces, cuando tenemos un verbo después de un relative pronoun, nos da a entender que es el sujeto. Okay? And what about here? What words do we have? ¿Qué palabras tenemos? What is I?
The subject.
The subject. And order?
A verb.
A verb. Very good. So, you can usually tell when a relative pronoun is the object of the clause because it is followed by another subject and a verb. ¿Ok? Entonces, siempre que tengamos un relative pronoun y un sujeto y un verbo, nos da a entender de que este relative pronoun es el objeto de nuestra oración. Entonces, sí podemos omitirlo. Pero cuando el relative pronoun está seguido de un verbo, no podemos omitirlo. ¿Ok? Vamos a ver algunos ejemplos y quiero que me ayuden a decidir qué tipo de oraciones tenemos acá. ¿Ok? Number one. Please, can you read sentence number one, Sebastián Ávila? Ávila, can you hear me?
Yes, teacher. Sorry. Okay.
Number one, please.
Yo estornudar. Okay. The man who came with her.
Read the sentence, please. Number one. Can you read?
The man who came with her has already left.
Okay, thank you. So what do you think, guys? What kind of relative pronoun do we have here? Is the subject of the clause or is the object of the clause?
is the subject
Okay, how do you know that?
because after who is a verb,
Okay,
there is a verb.
very good. And can we omit this subject? Can we erase or delete the subject? The relative pronoun? ¿Podemos eliminarlo?
No,
No, we can't. We can't delete, we can't omit because it's the subject of the clause. The relative pronoun is the subject of the clause. Okay? Sentence number 2. Mariana, please, can you read sentence number 2?
The dish which I ordered was delicious.
What do you think, Mariana? Which is the relative pronoun here?
Object,
Which is the relative pronoun here?
object,
You are not answering my question. Which of these words is the relative pronoun? Which, right? Which is the relative pronoun? Le estoy preguntando cuál es el relative pronoun, which, right? So, what do you think here, Mariana? Can we omit this relative pronoun? Can we omit the relative pronoun?
yes,
Yes, why?
because it's object, pronouns,
Because the
Because-
relative pronoun is the object of the clause. Because the relative pronoun is the object of the clause. Okay? Let's go to the next one. Please, Oscar, number 3.
Okay, there's something that you should know.
Tell me, Oscar, what is or which is the relative pronoun here? Which is the
Can you-
relative pronoun?
¿Me escucha, teacher?
Yes, I am asking you which is the relative pronoun.
It's that's you and show.
The relative
And
pronoun is you and should?
No.
What is it?
That is.
That. Okay, very good. That. Okay, here we have the other way, right? That. That is a relative pronoun. Okay,
Yes.
tell me, Oscar, can we omit this relative pronoun? Can we omit the relative pronoun?
About the order, it's not really the pronoun
Can
because
we
the subject
omit the relative pronoun? ¿Podemos eliminarlo? ¿Podemos omitirlo? Can we omit the relative pronoun?
in this case, no, because the this phrase is very important. That phrase or not significate this.
Angelica, what do you think? Can we omit the relative pronoun? Angelica?
That there is something. Yes,
Why?
because the phrase have a sentido sin esa palabra.
Okay, it has sense, pero no es la respuesta que estoy buscando. Fernanda, what do you think? Can we omit? Yes?
Because it's for person, for people.
No. Abudinen, can we omit the relative pronoun?
Yes, teacher.
Why?
Because it's not necessary this relative pronoun.
Why? How do you know that?
I don't know, teacher, is a object of the clause.
Yes,
Teacher.
because the relative pronoun is the object of the clause. So we can omit it, okay? And we can say, there is something you should know. And both sentences are correct. Let's go with the next one, please. Fernando, can you read sentence number 4?
Yeah, teacher. The woman that spoke at the meeting was very knowledgeable.
Knowledgeable. Okay, que sabía mucho significa.
Knowledgeable. Okay.
What do you think, Fernando? Can we omit the relative pronoun here?
Yeah, the relative pronoun is that.
Very good. Mhm. Can we omit it?
Can you hear me, teacher?
Yes. Mhm. Yes,
Okay.
the relative pronoun is that. Can we omit it?
That,
¿Podemos omitirlo? Can we omit it?
well, meeting. Meeting. No, teacher,
Why
because
not?
it's a subject of the clause.
Very good.
Maybe.
That is a relative pronoun, and we can't omit this relative pronoun because it's the subject of the clause. How do you know that, Fernando? ¿Cómo sabe usted que es el sujeto de nuestra clause?
Because sin esa palabra,
Without
this
relative
this
pronoun.
word, the it was this relative pronoun,
The sentence
the sentence don't
doesn't have sense. Mhm.
hasn't had sense yet.
Doesn't have sense. Okay, very good. Yeah, and also because we have a verb after the relative pronoun. As you can see in the ones that we can omit, we have a subject and a verb, subject and a verb. But in the ones that we can't omit, we have a verb after the relative pronoun. So take that into consideration, okay? What about the next one, please? Karin, can you read the next one?
It was the best film that I've ever seen.
What is the relative pronoun here, Karin?
That,
Very good. Can we omit it?
yes, because it's the object of the clause.
Very good. It's the object of the clause. What about the next one? Please, Jezarel, can you read the last one?
Do you have anything that will help my throat?
My throat, yes. What is the relative pronoun here?
That.
So, can we omit it? ¿Podemos omitirlo? Can we omit it?
No.
Why?
Because of the subject of the clause.
Because the relative pronoun is the subject of the clause, right? Because we have a verb after the relative pronoun. We don't have a subject and a verb, right? This is the other sentence. It was the best film I've ever seen. Okay, any questions until here?